Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. We are live right now. It is 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 10th of March. Oh man, time is flying. We are live right now, or at least most of us are. Apparently, I am not. And we're going to talk about those sort of subjects tonight. Consciousness Explained. Perhaps I should have showed up conscious. So forgive the strange background hue here. I took the video camera downstairs for a video on the drone and had some fun with the drone in the tub this morning, and that's not the way it sounds. So, anyways, first of all, as always, let me express my love for each and every one of you. You're exactly where you need to be. You're exactly who you need to be right now. And that is always shifting and changing. So if you don't particularly like where you are right now, learn to love yourself as I love you, as all of creation loves you. And don't worry, things always change. It's part of the deal. What are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about consciousness. And my comments are not functioning whatsoever, so I have no idea. But of course, Kelly is here, so she will relay anything that I need to know right away, of course. And we're going to talk, as I said, about consciousness, and we're going to begin with the very first question. What is consciousness? Well, there's been a lot of talk over the years about it, over this millennia, as a matter of fact. And when we boil it right down to its core, consciousness is the core material of everything. It is the ground state. It is that from which all things manifest. All physical manifestations, all energetic manifestations, all manifest from consciousness. We live in a universe that is literally an expression of the creative consciousness of the Creator. It is both the Creator and the Creator's consciousness simultaneously. Each and every part, every molecule, every speck of dust, everything imbued with the Creator's consciousness. And through that, it takes form. So when we look around ourselves in the universe, we can literally see varying states of God consciousness, varying expressions of God consciousness, each one no less valuable than the other, for they're all part of the one, as we are all. The one thing about human beings is human beings egoically love to think that they're somehow the penultimate important species in the universe, the one that really matters. The more realistic understanding is that you are no more or less valuable than the consciousness represented in a cat. Why? Because that underlying consciousness and your underlying consciousness are all part of that same one expressing itself in mirrored form. Now, that can be a big lump to swallow for a lot of people, right? You're no more important than your dog. Or you can look at it and say, I'm just as important as my dog is. And if you have cats like we do, our cats are VIPs. They really are. They're very important pussycats. I mean, I wake up in the morning, if I'm fortunate enough to wake up by myself, or I'm being woken up by one of our two cats, who typically invade our bed in the middle of the night and spend time moving from position to position. And I must rise in the morning, and before I can make Kelly a coffee, They must be fed, and they circle the island and my feet like a couple of furry little four-legged land sharks looking for sustenance as if they haven't been fed in months. So, that first hurdle to get over is the understanding that the same consciousness is imbued, and imbued isn't really the right word. The right words would be rises out of that same consciousness. Everything that we would see or hear or feel or experience, all of it rises out of that same one consciousness. That consciousness of all creation expressing itself in those mirrored forms. So, of course, our planet represents a type of conscious entity. And that conscious entity, as a holographic representation of the whole, a reflection of the whole, is made up of mirrored form. And each of those mirrored form are made up of mirrored form. And each of those are made up of mirrored form. And so on, and so on, and so on, into perpetuity. Until we get right back down to that core ground state again. Consciousness. So why is this really important to understand? Well, if you can egoically bring yourself down, if you will, to the point where you're willing to accept that you and the plant, and you and that insect, and you and that bird, and you and that cat, and you and that dog, and you and that pygmy, and you and that black person, and white person, and woman, and man, and transvestite, and homosexual, or whatever the case may be, are all emanations of that same consciousness, you begin to see that the path of communicating through and with all of it is always available to you. Kelly will tell you that I grow things in our yard. And no, they're not giant pot plants. But if I grew pot plants, they'd overpower our hedge. Everything I grow turns out huge, almost alien in the size. I've had heads of red lettuce that were so succulent and so good for you that were towering 3 feet tall, with huge giant leaves measuring a foot across. Why? Because I understand that it's all the same consciousness. I understand that if I am willing to open myself to communication and to not put any boundaries on that communication, I and the plant have an opportunity to realize our oneness together. And the food that comes out of our yard is so good. And I have a very small garden in relation to a lot of people. And our freezer is, this spring, still almost half full of food from it. It's simply amazing. You can open yourself to this communication. When we're talking about our pets, pets offer an amazing path to not only better physical health, but a better mental state as well, and a deeper spiritual connection with everything around us if we allow that to happen. Yesterday, for the first time, Sunshine's a very young kitten still, or a young cat. For the first time yesterday, she bypassed all the physical meowing, trying to express herself in some strange meowy cat language, which I have yet to decipher except for basic concepts, and literally communicated with me telepathically. And Karma does it all the time. Her and I are phenomenal. I'll speak something out loud to her, but cats love to see pictures. And if you show them a picture of exactly where they need to go or what you want them to do, and they've got that wavelength with you, I will do that to Karma, and she will head exactly where she's supposed to go. And yesterday, Sunshine, for the first time, sent that picture, boom, right into my skull. And I was so pleased and so happy. Now, you may think that I'm nuts, and, let's face it, I probably am. But compared to what the apparent sanity of the world is and what that's doing to the planet, I'd rather be the crazy one. Thank you. Although I do admit, as a nut, you got to watch out for the squirrels. It's an issue. They're always knocking at the door, trying to lure me outside. You know, there's a squirrel with some peanut butter out there the other day. It was crunchy peanut butter too. I almost opened the door. So that is the ground state of that consciousness. It is all God consciousness manifesting out of it. And even though consciousness is just a word, it's actually a fairly fitting word because it doesn't involve any, it doesn't evoke any sort of historic context to have a problem with, like the word God can do, right? Or the word Satan, or the word meditation versus prayer. Consciousness is kind of like the Tao in that way. It's a meaningless, it just means the way. And the way, well, what's the way? It's not pointing any way. It's just stating the way. So this ground state of consciousness is not only the truth of our existence, it is also approachable. You can easily get in touch with it. You can literally feel it within yourself very quickly if you calm your mind for a moment and allow yourself to follow the in and out of your breath. You will feel this sense of life within you. That is that first layer of that God consciousness that you are. And you can sit with that feeling of life and you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And the deeper you go, you realize you're literally manifesting the entirety of creation within yourself. And it's all there for you. So how do we apply this in the outside world? How do we apply this in our day-to-day life so that it makes some sort of valuable sense? Because without that, it's a lot of Garen blah, 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 blah again. And apparently I've got a set of lungs for it. In any situation, we can adopt the habit to recognize and honor the God consciousness at the core of whatever it is that we're interacting with. You know, very similar to Namaste, which is the recognition of the divine diamond, that shining light within your heart. For me, I love to take it even deeper than that and extend that Namaste to everything. That's why we have a yard full of birds and rats and raccoons and deer coming down, and we live right in the middle of town, down at the end of a block full of homes. And yet our place is full with life. And the sound of the birds in the morning and their willingness to allow me to feed them and to interact with them, there's no separation in those experiences. And you are offered that in every experience. You are offered the opportunity before you engage that egoic self, before you go down that same old path or reaction. You can catch yourself and say, wait a minute. This too is a manifestation of God consciousness, just as I am. God loves all of itself. How can I love this part of itself that is part of me too? That doesn't mean you take any abuse. That doesn't mean you allow yourself to come to any harm. It simply means that you're not willing to harbor anything detrimental to your own being in response to what you're perceiving as an experience occurring outside of yourself with another. This is the true core of consciousness. I have only had the presence and the fortune one time in my life to take part in witnessing for myself the singing of the spheres. And if you've never heard of that, what it is a state of profound meditation underneath a dark, clear night sky, all alone in nature with no light and no noise, just the natural noises. And you reach a state of being where every single object in the cosmos that you lay your eyes upon, you shift your awareness to, it literally sings to you. And it's going to bring tears to my eyes, I just know, because the experience is like nothing on earth. But you realize that, this is going to break me up, that there's this cosmic love song. And the song never ends for any of us. There is no time when that singing is not happening. It's available to each of us, each and every one of us, in every moment. A beautiful wave of joy. A wave of expression. Of ecstatic expression. Of that divine self. That we are all an integral part of. To even contemplate for too long that feeling is enough to throw me over the edge sometimes. It's such a wonderful state, and it's literally manifesting us at the same time. It is the core of our being, and it's available to you in every moment. And if you're not feeling it, the only thing standing in the way is your unwillingness to believe that it's available for you too. Because it's right there. The whole of your being is resonating with it as well. You can't escape it, no matter where you go. You are love. You are the vibration of love. You are the music of life itself. That's the truth of consciousness. Anything beyond that is fluff. There's really no other level of consciousness, okay? We may think ourselves as special, like I said. What the Western mind has been trained by the Bible that we're somehow the penultimate species that God created. There are no levels of consciousness. It's all God consciousness expressing itself, and every single expression is 100% as valuable as the next. The expression of the tiniest bush is just as valuable as the expression of the mightiest oak. The expression of a human being is just as valuable as the expression of an entire galaxy of stars. All of it part of that one consciousness that we are all part of. Every last one of us. That's it, that's all. Namaste to you all. Much love from me to you. Take good care of yourself. And we'll see you again, of course, very, very soon. Good night.